This podcast contains explicit content and discussions related to real-life criminal activities, including violence and sensitive topics. Listener discretion is advised. The host's opinions are personal and are not representative of any individuals or organizations involved in the cases. We strive for accuracy, but if you've missed anything, please let us know. Thank you for listening. Welcome to Rotten Minds. I'm Kay. What if your ordinary day took a terrifying turn? For a mother of 5, the morning rush seemed routine, until she encountered a betrayal so shocking it would change everything. A man she once trusted was about to reveal his true sinister intentions in the most brutal way imaginable. In today's episode, we'll dive into the perplexing case of Jennifer Dulos, the chilling details of a disappearance, a story of deceit, deception, and a relentless pursuit for justice that keep you on the edge of your seat. The tragic twist of this case is that despite the passage of time, her body has not been found yet, and this leaves her fate a haunting mystery. It is a cruel twist denying her loved ones a complete closure and the opportunity to say a proper goodbye. Before we get into the case, here's a disclaimer. This episode includes discussions of sensitive topics such as murder, domestic violence, and mentions of SA, so please listen with caution. On May 24, 2019, around 7 a.m., the authorities received a call from a woman named Lauren Almeida. She explained that her employer, Jennifer Dulos, the mother of the 5 children she was looking after, had been missing and had not been picking up any of her calls. According to the nanny, it was completely out of character for Jennifer to leave the house without telling anyone, and even more unusual for her to not answer her phone. She later told the authorities that when she had come to the house at 11:30 a.m. that day, she had been surprised to see that Jennifer's Range Rover was still in the garage, because Jennifer had originally planned to take it out to her doctor's appointments instead of her Chevy Suburban, which was instead missing from the garage. Jennifer had missed both of her doctor's appointments, one at 11 a.m. and the other at 1 p.m. in New York City, which was highly unlike her. Sensing that something was wrong, the nanny had called the police. 2 of Jennifer's friends had also expressed their concerns for her disappearance after they had failed to get in touch with her repeatedly. When the authorities arrived and searched the house, they found blood splatters on the floor, the door, and a wall in the garage, as well as on the exterior of the Range Rover. Blood was also found in the kitchen. DNA tests revealed that most of the blood was Jennifer's, the only exception being the blood found on the kitchen faucet. It was a mixture of Jennifer's and someone else's blood. From all the blood, it was very evident that Jennifer had been the victim of a serious assault. Other evidence found also suggested the same thing. Upon further investigation, the authorities came to know that Jennifer was last seen at around 8 a.m. that day, when she had dropped the kids off at the new Canaan country school, and then at 8:05 on a neighbor's security camera footage, returning home. That day, upon no sign of Jennifer, the nanny had dropped the kids off at their maternal grandmother, Gloria Farber's house in New York City. Gloria had said that she'd waited for her daughter to come and get her kids, but she never showed up. Jennifer's car, which had been missing, was later found that night at the side of a road near Vavany Park in New Canaan, just over 3 miles away from her home. Authorities said that the car had been backed up against a tree and there were no keys in the ignition, and there were signs of a blood-like substance on the passenger side of the vehicle. To get to know Jennifer a little bit better, let's go back to the very beginning. Jennifer Dulos was born on September 27, 1968 in New York City to Gloria Ottenberg, a banker, and Hilliard Farber, a philanthropist. Their family consisted of mom, dad, Jennifer, and an older sister, Melissa Irene Farber. Jennifer's maternal uncle and aunt by marriage, Elizabeth Claiborne and Arthur Rottenberg, founded the fashion company Liz Claiborne Inc. As a young child, Jennifer grew up in a wealthy family and surrounded by love. She had a great passion for writing. Jennifer graduated from Brown University in 1990 and later earned a master's degree in writing from New York University's Tisch School of Arts. As a stay-at-home mother, Jennifer made a living as a writer for Patch.com and also ran her own blog. It was at Brown University that she would meet Forrest Dulos. He was a charming and intelligent young man, and Jennifer had really taken a liking to him. Forrest Dulos was born on August 6, 1967 in Turkey and grew up in Athens, Greece before moving to the US in 1986. He graduated from Brown University in 1989 and later earned an MBA in finance from Columbia Business School. He was also an avid water skier and had won multiple competitions. Fotis had married Hilary Vanessa Aldama, also a Brown Uni graduate in Athens in June 2000, but their marriage lasted only for 4 years. It was in that year that Fotis founded Four Group Inc., a real estate development company based in Connecticut specializing in luxury homes. Dulos had started emailing Jennifer while he was still with his wife. They met each other much later at an airport, and from there the relationship gradually picked up. They got married in Manhattan just over a month after Fotis' divorce. They then moved to Farmington, Connecticut and had 5 kids together, which included 2 sets of twins, the first one being 2 boys and the second one being a boy and a girl, and their youngest a girl. At the time of her disappearance, Jennifer had been involved in a long custody battle and divorce with her husband, Fotis Dulos. The couple had been married for 13 years when Jennifer had filed for divorce in 2017. Remember when I mentioned that Jennifer was running a blog? Well, in a 2012 post, Jennifer alluded to trouble in her marriage. She wrote, "I wish I were a strong person and that confrontation did not both scare me and appall me." After the gradual breakdown of the marriage, Jennifer felt that she had to leave for her sake as well as for her children's sake. And with the help of a nanny, she made a plan to leave the house for good. One day, she told Fotis that she was taking the children to New York, and left with the children and the nanny, leaving behind Fotis at Farmington. It had become very late, and when no calls came from Jennifer, Fotis grew worried and called 911. But Jennifer was not missing, at least not this time. As mentioned before, she had left and not called on purpose. She had only one plan in her head, and that was to get as far away from Fotis as she could. Lauren, the nanny, in a later interview said that Jennifer was terrified of Dulos, and the couple often had very bad fights. Jennifer, in court documents, said that she was afraid of her husband and believed that he would harm her in some way for seeking a divorce. She also said that she believed that he was having an affair with his colleague, Michelle Troconis, who was a native of Venezuela. Remember when I mentioned that Fotis was a competitive water skier? Well, he was so obsessed with it that he started pressuring his kids to join various sports. It was fun for the kids at first, but as the pressure on them increased, it became less fun for them and became more of a chore. In fact, he was so obsessed with water skiing that he was away for almost 10 days a month. And it was on such a trip that he met Michelle. She was a single mother and also a reporter for ESPN in South America, and she mainly reported on snow skiing. She rode horses and was a competitive water skier herself as well. And Fotis was just mesmerized by her because she was just his type. He felt like he had more in common with her than he ever had with his wife. This man is disgusting, but as the saying goes, once a cheater, always a cheater. When Jennifer found out about the affair, that's when she knew that she had to get out. Literally because there was no point in staying with a person that did not value her, and she's so right for that. She also alleged that he had threatened to kidnap the kids if she did not agree to his terms in the divorce settlement. And another major thing to note was that he had bought a gun that year. When later questioned about it, Fotis denied making threats and claimed that he had bought the gun legally for home security. Both of them filed numerous motions against each other trying to disparage what the other party was saying. And at that point of time, Jennifer had requested an emergency order of custody, while the couple were given temporary joint custody of their children until the end of their divorce proceedings. Later, when Jennifer again requested for an emergency order of custody in early 2018, the judge found that Fotis had violated several court orders. When Jennifer had moved out of their family house, Fotis had called up Michelle, and she and the daughter moved into the house in Farmington. It was almost as if the man was just waiting for the right opportunity. When Jennifer came to know about the affair, she confronted Fotis about it, and he admitted to it and then asked her something so crazy that it was unbelievable. He asked her whether Michelle could move into the house and live with him. Like, just what was this guy thinking? And so when he got the right opportunity, he did not hesitate to make the best out of it, at least for himself. In March of that year, Jennifer was awarded sole physical custody of the children, while both parents were to share legal custody. Fotis was granted supervised visitation and monitored phone calls. Remember the company that Fotis had founded in 2000? Well, upon further investigation, it seemed that the company was not doing so well, basically saying that Fotis was neck deep in debt. Prior to Jennifer's disappearance, Fotis had taken a loan from his father-in-law, that is Jennifer's dad, Hilliard Faber, probably to try and save his company from going completely bankrupt. In February 2018, after Jennifer's father's death, Gloria Faber, his mother-in-law, filed a civil suit against him for unpaid loans. She claimed that he had owed them $1.7 million. Authorities even said that during the search for Jennifer, Fotis seemed the least worried of all people. His wife had just gone missing, and he couldn't care less, and that is an immediate red flag. By then, the authorities had found out all the ongoing problems in the Dulos life, and they slowly started to piece everything together. They started pulling up all the surveillance footage they could get their hands on. As they pulled up the security footage captured on the neighbor's security camera, they found that Jennifer's Chevy Suburban SUV had left that day at 10:25 a.m. What exactly happened that day? It was believed that when Jennifer had returned to the house at 8:05 after dropping the kids off at school, Fotis had been lying in wait for her at the house. He then killed her in the garage and packaged her body using plastic zip ties and loaded her into the SUV. He then proceeded to clean up the grisly crime scene using 10 rolls of paper towels from the home's kitchen pantry, which the nanny noticed was missing later that day. She said that the previous day she remembered seeing 12 rolls of paper towels, but when she arrived at the house the next day, she noticed that only 2 were left. Though she thought it was very odd, she didn't think much of it at the time. But Fotis also left behind irrefutable evidence. His DNA on the doorknob, and a mixture of his and Jennifer's DNA on a faucet in the kitchen. At around 10:25 a.m., Jennifer's Chevy Suburban was captured driving away from the house on a neighbor's security camera. Authorities believe that it had been Fotis driving the victim's vehicle, carrying the body of Jennifer and other items associated with the probable cleanup. Law enforcement sources close to the investigation said Jennifer Dulos' case was now being treated as a homicide. Video surveillance from the new Canaan school bus placed the red truck owned by one of the employees of Fotis within 100 feet from where the investigators later found Jennifer's SUV near Waveney Park. Just over an hour later, the truck was then seen pulling into the driveway at 80 Mountain Spring Road, a 10,000 square foot Farmington mansion owned by none other than 4 Group Inc. The 4 Group employee, whose pickup truck police said Fotis Dulos was driving the day of the killing, was working at the Sturbridge Hill Road home on May 24th. 4 days after the disappearance, the worker dropped off his pickup truck at Fotis Dulos' home on Jefferson Crossing in Farmington and drove another company vehicle to the Sturbridge Hill Road home to work for the day. When he returned to pick up his truck, he had told the police that it was not where he left it, so he called Fotis Dulos, who told him that he was bringing the car back from a car wash. Very sketchy. Surveillance footage depicted Fotis Dulos and Troconis shuttling the vehicle to Russell Speeders in Avon, where they paid $250 to have it cleaned and detailed. Russell Speeders is a group of car cleaning businesses. Even after having the truck washed without the worker's permission, according to arrest warrants, Fotis Dulos urged the man to remove and discard the seats. The man, who is not a suspect in the case, eventually removed the seats, but stored them in the garage and turned them over to the police. This was a very wise move on his part. Later testing determined that Jennifer Dulos' blood was found on one of them. After an examination of Fotis' phone, it revealed that he was in Hartford that night. Police also obtained surveillance footage showing him and a woman identified to be none other than Michelle Troconis, aka his lover, making several stops in the Albany Avenue area around the time Jennifer Dulos was reported missing on May 24th. At one of the stops, Troconis is seen leaning out of the vehicle. She would then later tell the police that she had spit out gum, and since her hand was sticky, she decided to wipe it on the sidewalk. What a dumb excuse. Like, that is disgusting, first of all, and what a stupid excuse. I don't know whether you should be disgusted by it or surprised by it. The video shows Fotis Dulos throwing out garbage bags that the authorities said were later determined to contain items, including clothing and zip ties with Jennifer's DNA on them. They also found footage of Fotis Dulos removing an object consistent with the appearance of a rear cargo liner from Jennifer's SUV and leaning it against a building. The new revelation led authorities to begin an exhaustive search of the Material Innovation Recycling Authority plant in Hartford, desperately trying to find any evidence that could be connected to the case. But despite searching through the trash for weeks, they could not find anything. Police soon arrived at Fotis Dulos' Jefferson Crossing home. Fotis and his girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, were seen outside his house at around 6 p.m. that evening speaking with authorities. Police then entered the house and stayed inside for about an hour. The couple was then escorted off the Jefferson Crossing property and went to State Police Trooper Barracks in Litchfield, where Forrest Dulos provided DNA and hair samples. Before going to Forrest Dulos' Farmington home, State Police searched the Upper Albany area of Hartford for evidence possibly related to Dulos that day, focusing on a storm drain outside a bakery and trash bins in the area. They also seized Forrest Dulos' 2014 black Ford F-150 Raptor after obtaining a warrant for the vehicle. This was mainly because the authorities had obtained video surveillance that showed a man inserting an item into a storm drain grate near Garden Street. Detectives later searched the storm drain and found a FedEx box with 2 Connecticut license plates that had been altered with adhesive and tape. The plate was connected with the cancelled registration for a 2007 Chevy Suburban belonging to Forrest Dulos. Police arrested Forrest Dulos and his girlfriend Michelle Traconis at an Avon hotel on the night of June 1, 2019. They were each being held on $500,000 bonds and charged with tampering with or fabricating physical evidence and first-degree hindering prosecution on the disappearance of Jennifer Dulos. Authorities spent the weekend searching Forrest Dulos' Farmington home on Jefferson Crossing and another nearby residence on Mountain Spring Road that was developed by Forrest Dulos' custom home building company. Traconis was now an alleged conspirator in her boyfriend's wife's disappearance. At the time of Jennifer's disappearance, Traconis was at the home she shared with Forrest Dulos, helping create an alibi. Forrest had left his phone at home and pre-arranged the call with a friend. The authorities believe that Traconis picked up the call to make it appear like Forrest had been at home during the time of Jennifer's disappearance, but she denied this allegation later. Helicopters, Canaan units, and divers were used to look for signs of Jennifer, but there had been no activity on her credit cards and no phone calls made from her cell phone since she disappeared. Forrest Dulos, Jennifer Dulos' estranged husband, and his girlfriend Michelle Traconis faced arraignment in State Superior Court in Norwalk on June 3rd of 2019. Judge Stephanie McLaughlin maintained their bonds at $500,000 during the arraignment. Traconis was released later that afternoon after posting bond, while Forrest Dulos was taken back to the Bridgeport Correctional Facility. The day following the arraignment, Gloria Faber, Jennifer Dulos' mother, filed a motion seeking at least temporary custody of their 5 children. She had been looking after the children since Jennifer Dulos had disappeared on May 24, 2019. The search for Jennifer Dulos had now led investigators to a pond on Old Farms Road in Avon. In divorce documents, she had claimed that her husband had pushed their children to dangerous limits while training them to be competitive water skiers. Following 10 days in custody and posting a $35,150 bond, Forrest Dulos returned to his home in Farmington. On June 11, 2019, both he and Michelle Traconis pleaded not guilty to charges of tampering with evidence and hindering prosecution. On the same day, Forrest Dulos invoked his Fifth Amendment right to avoid self-incrimination, choosing not to testify in family court. The court hearing pertained to Jennifer Dulos' mother Gloria Faber, who was seeking custody of the 5 children. Forrest Dulos broke his public silence for the first time since Jennifer Dulos' disappearance. Addressing his 5 children, he stated, "They are constantly on my mind. I love them and miss them very much." Speaking to reporters outside the Stamford courthouse, Dulos revealed that he had not seen his kids since 2 days before his wife went missing. The judge banned Michelle and Forrest from contacting each other while the case was going on. Maintaining his innocence, Forrest Dulos addressed his estranged wife's disappearance in his first one-on-one interview since his arrest. He said, "I know what I've done, and I know what I haven't done. So I have to stand and fight and hope that the truth is going to come out." When asked by NBC New York reporter Sarah Wallace if he wanted to say anything to his estranged wife's family, Forrest Dulos referred to a statement released by his sister and said he sends his prayers. He said, "I had my differences with Jennifer like many people do when they go through a marriage. It didn't work out for us, but that doesn't mean that I wish her ill in any way." A judge allowed Jennifer Dulos' mother Gloria Faber to intervene in her daughter's lengthy divorce, ensuring that her 5 grandkids would remain in her care for the time being. The following day, Faber's attorneys filed a motion in her $2.5 million civil lawsuits against Forrest Dulos. They sought to depose Michelle Traconis to uncover any information she had regarding Dulos' company's finances. On July 30, 2019, Faber's attorneys filed a motion seeking sole custody of the couple's children. Forrest and Michelle wrote notes detailing their activities on the day Jennifer Dulos disappeared, hoping to remember their whereabouts. However, police found these notes, which they called alibi scripts, and and it contained inaccurate information and false witness statements. Fotis Dulos was arrested for evidence tampering after police found his wife's DNA in a truck he had cleaned, which contained a substance resembling blood. During an interview with police, Michelle Traconis stated that Dulos had the vehicle cleaned because, and I quote, "the body of Jennifer at some point wasn't there," end quote. Dulos was arrested again on September 4, 2019 around 2:30 p.m. at his Farmington home. After being processed at Connecticut State Police Troop G Barracks in Bridgeport, he was released on a $500,000 bond just before 7 p.m. Michelle Traconis surrendered to police on a charge of tampering with evidence related to Jennifer Dulos' disappearance. She turned herself in at the Troop G Barracks in Bridgeport around 1:30 p.m. and was released on a $100,000 bond just before 3 p.m. Even though Jennifer Dulos' body had not been found yet, her family, represented by attorney Richard Weinstein, believed that she was dead. Weinstein, who also represented Gloria Faber in lawsuits against Fotis Dulos, told the news channel that Jennifer's family was grieving her loss. In contrast, Fotis Dulos expressed to Dateline NBC that he believed his wife was alive and hoped for her return to clear his name. Even then, he's just thinking about himself. It's all about clearing his name. Michelle Traconis moved out of the Farmington home she shared with Fotis Dulos and moved into an apartment. On the 7th of January 2020, more than 7 months after Jennifer Dulos vanished, police announced that they had gathered sufficient evidence to declare the missing New Canaan mother deceased and charged 3 individuals in connection with her homicide. Connecticut Chief Medical Examiner James R. Gill indicated in arrest warrants that the 50-year-old mother of 5 likely sustained a non-survivable injury. Fotis Dulos, her estranged husband, faced new charges of murder and kidnapping. His ex-girlfriend Michelle Traconis and former civil attorney Kent Mulvaney were each charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Fotis Dulos posted a $6 million bond, while Traconis and Mulvaney were held on $2 million bonds. The medical examiner characterized Jennifer Dulos' death as a violent homicide, likely involving blunt force trauma and stabbing injuries. According to the warrant, Jennifer Dulos was restrained with zip ties during the alleged attack. 2 of the 4 ties used were discovered with her blood on them. Fotis Dulos' arrest warrant revealed minimal information about him, stating he provided absolutely no cooperation to law enforcement in their investigation into Jennifer's disappearance. Instead, the warrant focused on conflicting statements made by Traconis. Days after Jennifer's disappearance, a member of a gun club founded by Mulvaney found what appeared to be a human grave in the club's wooded area. The hole contained 2 bags of lime, which can aid in decomposing a body as per the member's warrant. The member informed police weeks later upon realizing Mulvaney's connection to Fotis Dulos. When authorities searched the area, they found no human remains. In a shocking turn of events, Fotis Dulos, age 52, was discovered unresponsive in his Farmington home, the victim of an apparent suicide attempt. Police made the grim discovery around noon on January 28, 2020, during a welfare check prompted by his absence at an emergency bond hearing. Despite the efforts of first responders to save his life, Fotis Dulos was airlifted to Jacobi Medical Center in New York, where he remained on life support due to carbon monoxide poisoning. Fotis Dulos was removed from life support on the morning of January 30, 2020, and succumbed to his injuries at 5:32 p.m. During a late-night search of his Farmington residence on January 29, 2020, authorities discovered a note. In it, Fotis Dulos vehemently professed his innocence regarding the death and disappearance of his estranged wife, adding another layer of mystery to this already convoluted case. His family members said that he was innocent, while Jennifer's family had a totally different reaction to the news. They said that the guilt must have been too much for him to handle, and in the end he decided to take his own life. After over 300 motions filed by the estranged couple, Jennifer and Fotis Dulos' contentious divorce reached its conclusion. Jennifer Dulos had initiated the divorce proceedings on June 20, 2017. The dismissal of the divorce case resulted in its removal from the court system without a final order. Michelle Traconis hired John L. Schwenhorn, a prominent criminal defense attorney from Hartford, to replace Andrew Bowman in her defense against charges of conspiracy to commit murder, tampering with evidence, and hindering prosecution. With Schwenhorn on board, Traconis indicated a desire to mount a more robust public defense against allegations that she assisted a former boyfriend, Fotis Dulos, in the killing of his estranged wife. Schwenhorn promptly filed court documents seeking to have many of Traconis' bond restrictions, such as house arrest, required drug testing, and electronic monitoring, lifted by a judge. In her first public statement since her arrest, nearly a year earlier, Michelle Traconis admitted that it was a mistake to trust Fotis Dulos. However, she maintained that she does not know Jennifer Dulos' whereabouts whereabouts or what happened to her. Troconis stated, "To those who are quick to judge people they do not know, let me say this. It is possible to misjudge people. Whether or not Fotis Dulos was capable of doing the things the police and prosecutors accused him of doing, I do not know. But based on what I've learned in the last year, I think it was a mistake to have trusted him." More than a year had passed after Jennifer Dulos was last seen. State police conducted a search of a property in Avon where Jennifer and Fotis Dulos had previously resided with their children. The search, which lasted approximately 8 hours, included the home and wooded area at Skyview Drive. Additionally, a septic company was brought in to empty the property's tank. Despite these efforts, police reported that no new evidence was discovered. The state filed more charges against Michelle Troconis, including 2 additional counts of conspiracy to commit tampering with evidence. They also replaced the first-degree hindering prosecution charge with the second-degree hindering prosecution charge. These charges were filed just before a hearing to remove her electronic monitoring device. Her attorney John Schwenhorn entered pleas of not guilty to the new charges. Days after the hearing, Schwenhorn released a video of his client's police interview. He argued that the electronic monitor requirement was based on false assertions by state police investigators. On September 23, 2020, Stamford Superior Court Judge John Blovey lifted Michelle Troconis' house arrest and curfew, but required her to continue wearing a GPS monitoring device. She also remained restricted from leaving Connecticut without court permission. On October 19, 2020, Ken Mulvaney, the lawyer charged in the Jennifer Dulos case, was released on bond after spending over 9 months in jail. Later that month, his bond was reduced from $2 million to $246,000 in cash and real estate. This reduction was granted by a judge after Mulvaney requested to visit a sick father in Florida. Kent Mulvaney reportedly met with state police investigators before his release to discuss a plea deal. Attorney John Schwenhorn, representing Michelle Troconis, mentioned a 2-hour video interview with Mulvaney where he claimed to have discussed plans with Troconis and Fotis Dulos the night before the disappearance. Schwenhorn expressed doubts about the validity of Mulvaney's statements. Michelle Troconis repeatedly denied involvement in Jennifer Dulos' disappearance during interviews with state police investigators. According to video excerpts filed by her attorney, she stated, "I have no idea what happened to Jennifer, and I have no idea where Jennifer is, and that's 100%, during an August 13, 2019 interview. On June 28, 2021, the Connecticut legislature passed a law recognizing coercive control as a form of domestic violence, named Jennifer's Law, in honor of Jennifer Dulos and Jennifer Magnano, 2 domestic violence victims in the state. Michelle Troconis' attorney John requested a judge to exclude statements she made to police in 3 interviews during Jennifer Dulos' disappearance and death, citing language barriers. Schwenhorn also filed motions to limit evidence and to dismiss Troconis' evidence tampering charges, alleging police misconduct. On January 18, 2022, Kent Mulvaney's case was put on the trial list, but a trial date was not scheduled. He was released after awaiting trial for conspiracy to commit murder in connection with Jennifer Dulos' disappearance and death. Mulvaney pleaded not guilty to the charge. Prosecutors had indicated that he could testify against Michelle Troconis in her trial. Mulvaney was accused of spousal rape and violating a protective order involving his estranged wife, whom he allegedly wanted dead, according to the police. What is with all these men trying to kill their wives? Police stated that Mulvaney used Dulos to contact his estranged wife in violation of the protective order, attempting to arrange a meeting with her. Mulvaney's wife told police she believed Dulos was collaborating with her estranged husband to get rid of her. Dulos briefly met with the woman in West Hartford on May 19th, according to the warrant, and then contacted her on May 20 and May 21, 3 days before his own wife vanished. On February 23, 2022, Kent Mulvaney pleaded guilty to violating a protective order involving his ex-wife. He entered his plea under the Alford Doctrine, which indicates he does not admit guilt, but acknowledges there is enough evidence for a potential conviction. As part of a deal with prosecutors, Mulvaney would avoid jail time, receiving a suspended 5-year prison sentence and 3 years of probation. On October 3, 2022, Kent Mulvaney was briefly held on a $1.5 million bond after prosecutors accused him of tampering with his court-ordered electronic monitoring device, alleging tears were found on its sides. His defense attorney argued the marks were normal wear and tear. Mulvaney was released again on December 15, 2022. On April 6, 2023, a judge approved Michelle Troconis' request to have a GPS monitoring device removed. Kent Mulvaney was released from house arrest 7 months after being accused of tampering with his court-ordered electronic monitoring device. Jennifer Dulos was declared dead by a probate judge based on overwhelming evidence of non-survivable injuries. The decision followed a petition filed by her mother, Gloria Faber, in August 2023. Under Connecticut law, someone missing for 7 or more years is presumed dead. Michelle Tracona's trial is set to begin on January 11, 2024, nearly 5 years after the death and disappearance of Jennifer Dulos. Traconas, 49, is facing charges related to the case, including conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. She has pleaded not guilty. Traconas was the girlfriend of Fotis Dulos, who died by suicide in January 2020 while facing charges in connection with his estranged wife's disappearance. Kent Mulvaney, another defendant in the case, has also pleaded not guilty to conspiracy to commit murder and is planning to go to trial. Michelle Traconas was found guilty of all 6 counts in the death and disappearance of Jennifer Dulos. The charges include conspiracy to commit murder, 2 counts of conspiracy to tamper with physical evidence, 2 counts of tampering with physical evidence, and 1 count of second-degree hindering prosecution. Following the conviction, Traconas was taken back into custody as she was unable to immediately post a $6 million bond. She is scheduled to be sentenced on May 31st, 2024, which is coming up very soon. This was honestly such a sad case to cover. It is incredibly tragic that the police could not locate Jennifer's body, leaving her loved ones without proper closure. I mean, imagine the impact that it's gonna have on their kids. Their father is dead, so is their mother, and in the case of their mother, they don't know exactly what happened to her. And there's all these people talking about how your father might have killed your mother, and it's just going to be so traumatic to them. Even though they're not going to be able to understand certain things at a young age, eventually they're going to get to know about it. It's sooner or later. The last time they saw their mother was when she dropped them off at school. I don't know if they were too young at that point of time to remember her face, but I feel like this is just so traumatic for them even in their adult lives. In a few hours between seeing their mother, dropping them off at school, their lives just change forever and they don't even know it until they're old enough to understand. And that brings us to the end of today's case. So what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Stay safe out there and we'll see you in the next episode. Don't forget to follow and rate the podcast on whichever platform you're listening to. And if you have any case suggestions, let us know in the comments or in the Q&A area in Spotify. Thank you for listening. I'm Kay, and this was Rotten Minds.